we did show the 10 crack commandments Hunter Biden edit last week. We
showed it on the Convo couch. It was so good that day.
A remix with some brand new lyrics has entered the building. This is the Pedo Pete version.
They gon' hate me for this one. Hey, you know what's really wild? Got your own son calling you a pedophile. Why you getting called that by your own child? It's a Pedo Peter every time the phone down. Wow, Hunter arguing with hookers while he wearing crack. Whoa, they call it a conspiracy, but I'm saying facts. Whoa, in the mention up in Cali, but who pay for that? Whoa, the media gon' cover it up like he ain't get hacked. Whoa. Here we go again. If it was Trump Jr., it would be on CNN. This what happens when you rich but you a slave to sin. This what happens when the devil knock you let him in. Nah, I don't care about who this offends. Biden crime family, they all belong in the pen. Biden loves minors, that's the real BLM. Call me what you want, but at least I ain't a damn. Wait, hold up, don't get mad at me. Am I tripping or is he in bed with Natalie? Why he recording all that? What's the strategy? If you do incest, you probably do bestiality. Hey, the president's son is a crackhead, but you the smartest guy, he know that's what your dad said. Is he the real president or a jack led? Why is everyone that voted for your dad dead? Hey, you know what's really wild? Got your own son calling you a pedophile. Why you getting called that by your own child? It's a Pedo Peter every time the phone down. Wow, Hunter arguing with hookers while he wearing crack. Whoa, they call it a conspiracy, but I'm saying facts. Whoa, in the mention up in Cali, but who pay for that? Whoa, the media gon' cover it up like he ain't get hacked. Whoa, all the women in your phone, can we check the age? Wasn't you on Epstein Island? Can we check the page? Hunter needs to be in prison, put him in the cage. I thought he was clean, seemed like he ain't changed his ways. And that ain't working for Verisma, how he get a raise? 10% for the big guy, who all getting paid? I still don't know why he recorded, is it blackmail? But do you really think any of them will go to jail? They satanic and all of them will go to hell. You a lame Hunter and your daddy lame as well. It's obvious, but if you blind and read it in braille, will the corruption never end? Only time will tell. President's son is a crackhead, but you the smartest guy, he know that's what your dad said. Is he the real president or a jack led? Why is everyone that voted for your dad dead? Hey, you know what's really wild? Got your own son calling you a pedophile. Why you getting called that by your own child? It's a Pedo Peter every time the phone down. Wow, Hunter arguing with hookers while he wearing crack. Whoa, they call it a conspiracy, but I'm saying facts. Whoa, in the mention up in Cali, but who pay for that? Whoa, the media gon' cover it up like he ain't get hacked. Whoa.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Our good friend Jason Bermas.
How we doing, fellas? Nothing like a little Hunter rap styling to get the day going.
That's your intro, baby.
He said the Biden loves minors. That's the real BLM.
Oh my goodness. I have heard that. I did not pick up on that line. It's funny, you know, I kind of got into it with one of my really good buddies, a friend of mine from over 20 plus years ago, somebody who kind of woke up to 9/11 with me. I was living with him at the time, and he just has severe TDS. I mean, still to this day, just Trump derangement syndrome on every single level, can't get over it. He's always hated the guy, well before politics, hated him when he was doing the WWE and F stuff, hated him on The Apprentice, hated him as a personality, hated him when he was on Howard Stern, and he can't get over it, right? So we were having a conversation yesterday about the poopy pants puppet in office. And, you know, I was like, I was talking about the fact that the man can't speak. And this guy's still holding on to 81 million votes, most popular president in the world. I hate Trump that much. I can't think there was any corruption in the election. I believe the TV, right? And it's hurtful because I sit there and I go, you know, you could say what you want about Trump, all right? But at least he was somewhat in charge. There was more money in my bank account. He wanted out of the Paris Climate Accord. He was trying to get us out of the WHO. Far from perfect. I go, this guy has literally been called Pedo Peter by his son in his phone. Can you imagine what a failure you were? This guy's a dad. You know, he got I think a 2-year-old daughter at this point. Can you imagine what a failure and disturbance as a father and a human being you must be, that you would be that in your son's phone and in your daughter's diary talking about inappropriate showers with him. So what do I get? I get BDS. And obviously I don't understand what BDS means, but it's Biden derangement syndrome. And I go, bro, there's no derangement here. I've been reporting on Joe Biden before he was the vice president. He was covering up 9/11 and the Pakistani involvement when he can still speak.
Yeah.
Well,
Joey B days.
Yeah. So it boggles my mind that people are that far gone that they can watch the country crumble in front of them, that they can watch somebody who can barely. I can't believe they put him on the podium for almost 20 minutes. When I was covering that live 2 days ago, I thought 5-10 minutes max. He did tell a couple rambling stories. Obviously, the man can't speak. He can barely get sentences out. The media highlighted the fact that he has cancer. I was actually, when I was listening to that, he actually said a friend of his had cancer before that, and I was questioning whether that was a reality. Because we know Joe will just say whatever comes into his head. We're in trouble. A climate emergency is very, very, very bad for everybody except for those at the top. And that's what they intend to pull. And again, there's no one in the mainstream media in this country that's covering Sri Lanka, Panama, or really the Netherlands at any length. So your average, pseudo intellectual liberal that is in complete denial just refuses to even look at that stuff, even if you show it to them, or understand why they're in that situation. And they're in that situation because they've blown out their economy. They've committed their resources to the globalists that represent Davos, and they are on the green carbon climate change agenda, moving us all into a digital social credit score nightmare, fellas.
You saw the QR codes in Sri Lanka, I'm sure. You saw that. I was trying to kind of time that as we thought you were coming in about an hour earlier today, but I know you saw that and what's going on over there. I don't know, Steve, I didn't want to ask to get off on the fertilizer thing, but I want to ask JB's opinion on that, unless you have a certain direction you were thinking about driving us.
Pasta has an all-consuming desire to know more about poo. So he is he's seeking fertilizer advice from everyone.
This is something I think we need to talk about. So, I mean, you've heard about the whole situation when they pulled chemical fertilizers for all organic, what it possibly did. They kind of did the two-step, bring them back, take it off. They changed policy back and forth several times. However, Steve kind of explained earlier that what this fertilizer can do. A lot of people understand, the Monsanto effect of sorts. And I don't think we have good enough conversations when it comes to this. It either seems to be feast or famine. But I just want to get your opinion on the fertilizer situation in Sri Lanka.
Well, Sri Lanka, obviously, they are trying to make it just like they're trying to make it everywhere for smaller, independent farmers, people outside of the Monsanto globalist system, to grow food, period. And actually, I hear a ton about the soil and fertilizer because I'm buddies with Pat Miletich, and kind of Pat's big gig right now is that he is a representative for a type of soil conditioner that uses fulvic acid. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with fulvic acid, but aside from being pretty decent for human being consumption, although demonized at times, it has a lot of rich minerals and things that are essential if you want to grow food to its potential and peak, and often dominates regular fertilizer, often because the soil is so depleted, right? Bill Gates on record, I think a year and a half, 2 years ago, when someone said, well, why aren't we planting more trees if it's so bad, right? Don't we need more oxygen in the air? Don't we need to offset this carbon? No, we're not planting any more trees. The soil is just so terrible that can't work. That's bullshit. But at the same time, there is a hint of truth to that. I would say this, learn to garden. We're in a situation, and I'm not just saying that for Sri Lanka. I'm not just saying that for the United States. I'm saying that for just about anybody that's got a small plot of land, because they plan on taking it all away from you. First of all, one of the reasons that I did the video on Kristi Noem this week, she's put, for those that don't know, Kristi Noem is the South Dakota governor. She's also a farmer, and she's been one of the few people that not only stood up to the COVID 1984 nightmare, but has been discussing what could happen with our food supply if it gets into the wrong hands. And a lot of our food supply obviously coming in from China at this point. And she's like, look, if they control our food, they control our country. And it looks more and more like she's going to run for president. I don't know.
Because I'm a label watcher. And I look to see where the food's coming from. I look to see where the fruits and maybe it's just because I've been in California and Nevada for the last several, never seen a Chinese import for food. And
not too much Chinese import. So let me tell you what they're doing. For instance, Smithfield, right? That's a big brand around here. That's owned by China. So they're not importing. They just own the farms here.
Okay.
You know, when we're talking about livestock and when we're talking about vegetables. Now, then you talk about all the other things that are coming in for the ingredients on a lot of these things they call food, but you and I both know that's anything but food, right? So, you know, she talked about that. She also talked about the energy supply. She's taking out national ads in New Hampshire and Iowa, and I forget what the third state is, but it's one of those primary states. And frankly, I said if Trump were smart, he would run with her as the president, and he would be the vice president. I mean, if these people were at all sincere.
Well, what fucking end, though, man? Because they're not. Donald Trump's an actor. He fucking printed $30 trillion in a year and a half. He dropped more drone bombs in 4 years than Obama did 8. He was so far up Israel's ass that he had to climb over fucking Joe Biden from 1993 to get there. Like I did, where the measures that even people like DeSantis took against COVID gave the next governor, or going to hand the next governor, a complete and total dictator's kit to run roughshod over the entire fucking population there.
Yeah. Well, again, that's why I haven't gotten behind any of these people for real, and why I've been critical of Trump. I think that side of the Republican Party, though, is going to be visually unstoppable.
Oh, right? Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that, which is why I tried so often to interject reality into it, because all we see are people pumping these guys up all over the place. And there's zero criticism of any of them that's allowed into that space. Or if you do it, they brush it off as, oh, well, Trump was put into that position by the globalists and he didn't want to, and and it's just a bunch of sycophants who are sitting there like just trying to get close enough to get a little bit of that success rubbing off on them, or a little bit of that wealth rubbing off of them.
I think that I even still think that, like, I mean, we had Don DeBar on the other day, and he was even like questioning. I think a lot of people question, is Trump some outsider type of guy, or is he really just a man put in there for the next stage? I mean, a lot of people still question that. I think on all sides of the political spectrum, I think it's still, they don't see it as clearly as some of us do, or whatnot. I didn't see it clearly at first. I questioned it,
Well, I'd say this again, there are some differences aside from the things that I said, the big failures. And this was one of the other contentions I had with my friend. I go, you want to start talking about how, he pardoned Kodak Black, who's back in jail, by the way. Right. Yeah. And didn't pardon Julian Assange while running on love the WikiLeaks. Can't get enough of the WikiLeaks. You want to talk about another failure? He had Bill Barr in there during this whole Epstein fiasco. He wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. Okay. He couldn't keep Epstein alive, and then did no investigation in that. He hired Alan Dershowitz as his lawyer to stop the second impeachment hoax. Mm-hmm. At one angle, you got to admit they went after the guy. They demonized the guy. They're continuing to do so. They had their 8th hearing, which is like a glorified YouTube mix video, right? These aren't hearings. Yeah. You don't have an opposition asking what's really going on.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that Trump is that smart, right? He's a smart guy, but like having the people around him that he did, John Bolton, James Mattis, Bill Barr, those are the real failures.
Pompeo.
Pompeo. And the other thing I don't like about Pompeo is he's kind of on tour with these people, right? He's speaking at a lot of these events that are pushing a Trump 2024 or MAGA movement. Meanwhile, Pompeo is one of the main authors of this new document that surfaced just a couple weeks ago, but comes from June of this year, where they're talking about mass assassination of political figures on behalf of Iran. Now, whether or not they actually have legitimate intelligence, and I'm sure there are high-level Iranians that don't like Trump, that don't like Biden, that would like to see them dead. What they did to Soleimani was repulsive, repugnant. A lot. In fact, the vast majority of people on the right and even in the alternative media will not say that. I will say that. I said that from day one. I thought it was extremely foolish. This was a guy that actually helped us rid ourselves of ISIS in the Middle East, an organization that our quote-unquote military industrial complex and deep state helped create, riding around in Chevy trucks with AK-47s. And we kill the guy that basically Putin sanctions to come in, right? Putin had had enough. He said, enough with the ISIS. The Iranians are my friends. We're going to bring in their military. They do it. You use that as a cover now, the revenge theory, not only to get rid of Zombie J, but more than likely Trump or anybody else in their way. And you couple that with a precision nuclear strike anywhere in the world. Forget anywhere in the Western world, really anywhere in the world, it would be a big deal. And we could be looking at executive orders and powers that make COVID-1984 look like child's play. And if you don't think that Pompeo would be involved in the know-how of how that happened, I think that you're being extremely naive. This is a guy that knew damn well what they were doing from the very beginning as the Secretary of State during Operation Warp Speed and these lockdowns. He knew exactly what they were doing. My issue is this. We're going to have an election, hopefully, in 2024. Lord knows what happens in the midterms. Who is the dream team? You know, I invited my audience to start talking about that. Who is in the arena?
He likes DeSantis.
You know what?
It's going to be DeSantis and Tulsi Gabbard versus either Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg and Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger, because 2024, Jason, is going to be about make America one party for real. Yeah. And then that way they can move towards 2030 unimpeded with the one unified part of the larger global community party. And DeSantis is going to facilitate that, and Tulsi Gabbard's going to facilitate that, and Pete Buttigieg is going to facilitate that, and Liz Cheney's going to facilitate that.
Where does Mitt Romney fit into all this? Is he going to run as a Democrat?
Mitt Romney will probably run as a Democrat. He probably will. Yeah. And he will likely end up in the cabinet of either administration as a token to one or the other, like to placate people. Go ahead.
You know, I was trying to talk to my audience about who's the dream team. They don't necessarily have to be in politics now, but they'd have to be able to get back into politics, right? So some of the names that I floated around there were, let's get someone who's really anti-war in there. Let's bring back the couscous, Dennis Kucinich. You know, not perfect on guns, but a true liberal, a true lefty, somebody that stood up to the establishment. I like him in administration. You want somebody who's going to be your intelligence advisor or your national security advisor or your secretary of defense. You know who I like? I like John Kiriakou. You know, here's a guy that was punished by the system for telling the truth. I think he's a valid whistleblower, you know, not necessarily in the political arena, but certainly in the intelligence arena. And maybe his calling is out there. I think Kristi Noem is much better than just about everybody else out there as governor. I think she's better than DeSantis. I think the only one that gave her a run is my governor, Kim Reynolds. She's not perfect either. I think that Noem would send a message as the anti-Hillary if she was ever our first American female president. Just based on rhetoric alone, right? Not based on maybe her actions, but she's extremely anti-abortion. I know that's going to turn some people off, but I'm just saying, compared to Hillary, who's, you know, abortion all the time, every time. She's extremely conservative, is actually somebody, you know, although she's part of a family business, was involved in farming, getting her hands dirty. The total antithesis of Hillary Clinton's scumbag lawyer and wife of scumbag lawyer, right?
That sounds like a marketing gift to about 28% of the American public.
You're not wrong. And I think that she could be crafted in a way where she's a viable candidate. And again, if Trump were smart, and again, I don't believe that this is, I think the guy has way too much ego. But if they really wanted to make the country great again, and they ran on the policies that they speak about, and you left Noem to the press, I think she does a very good job with the press in the way that Trump was with the press during his presidency, and you send Trump on the international tour. He's off to North Korea again. He's going to talk to Poot. He's going to Saudi Arabia, and he's kind of the international ambassador for trade and negotiations. I think there's a possibility of at least a economically prosperous time in this country and a move away from the fourth industrial revolution that they're trying to bring us into. Now, if we get a total sham midterm, which is extremely possible, I think all that's by the wayside. None of that matters. I know that I've discussed it with you guys. I don't know if I discussed it on air last time I was here, but when I, talked to Roger Stone ever briefly prior to the Reawaken America tour event, I said, well, Trump, if you believe Trump won in 2020, what's the difference? I go, he wasn't able to challenge any of it. Why would it be any different in 2024? Right? And he didn't have a good answer for that. Again, the guy just didn't seem to have an answer. And then when I would bring up other people, this dream team of mine, someone like Rand Paul, who, to be honest, if I were to choose out of everybody, forget about Kristi Noem, forget about DeSantis, I'd like Rand Paul.
Fuck that. He's not coward pussy motherfucker and his entourage at Freedom Fest, that tiny little weak fucking thin ankled piece of shit. Fuck
Really quickly, guys, thank you so much, everybody. I don't want to interrupt you for joining on in.
We had an encounter last week,
we did.
Jason.
We
did.
did.
That's why.
With Rand?
With
Yeah.
Rand.
Yeah.
We asked him to come
Freedom Fest here
sign
in
a
Vegas.
banner, and he didn't want to. He didn't like to eat, so I don't want to be forced to do anything.
Well, Kendra
push.
tried to approach him at the book signing desk too. She went and bought that ghost written piece of shit, and tried
the
to
argument
engage with
against
her.
socialism.
Dude, Rand was trying to argue with Kendra and just lied to her. I talked about Julian Assange. No, you don't.
Mm-mm.
No, you don't. You didn't even attach your name to any of that legislation that Thomas Massey and Justin Amash did for Julian Assange. You wouldn't do that. He said, I don't like to be forced to do anything, as he's surrounded by security. And Misty Winston is about to go on air saying, hey, look, man, I need like 2 minutes of your time and I got shit to do. I'm not going to be forced to do this. Bro, you have an entourage. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. You know what, though? Your dad would have taken 60 seconds for us.
Yeah, he would have. Guys, do us a favor.
To that for a second, because in 2007, on the way to the 2008 presidential election, I did spend some time with Ron Paul, and you're absolutely correct. He was this is before Rand had run for politics and become a Kentucky senator. And Ron he'd run several times. I believe in 2004 he'd already run. He'd run in 2000. He was running in 2008. This is where the Ron Paul revolution started to take off. And him and his wife were very hands-on. I want to say that, clearly. They had a small little tour bus van. I remember just after these debates that went on, we were at a small bar. He was extremely cordial to everybody. In fact, if I could find it, myself and Samuel Otero beforehand interviewed him for about 15, 20 minutes. And there's no doubt Rand is not his father, right? So therein lies the problem. I'm glad that you mentioned Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey's on my all-star squad.
Yeah.
No, this is a guy, for those that don't know, that lives so close to his state house that if, in fact, they try to sneak one in, if you will, he is famous for throwing on his tennis shoes and stopping the vote. What do you mean sneak one in, Jason? Sometimes these people will gather at 11:30 at night and call, a session in so they can try to sneak in legislation. And Massey is one of those guys that shoots that idea down. Massey's also one of the best people on the First Amendment, one of the best people on the Second Amendment. Just had a great exchange with Pete Bootlicker on the energy infrastructure reality.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and yeah, it was.
Yeah.
What I've liked best about Massey lately is that he's the only person I have ever seen in Congress go, here's how you become food secure without our help.
Yeah. The 10 commandments he put up, right? The 10 Massey commandments.
Well, no, I mean, it was just 10
was
things
awesome.
that people can do to become food secure. And it's not every single one of them is applicable to where people live, but the two that are most important, anyone can do anywhere, even if you live in an apartment.
Yeah. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We're here with Jason Bermas, hanging on out. We got about 35 minutes left. We got 237 people in the house. Let's match that number of 250 we had yesterday, where we beat Jason Bermas for the day. Help us beat Jason Bermas again for the second day in a row, as we brought on the Bermas Brigade to talk about things so we can get that number one slot.
I was listening to No Agenda yesterday, and as soon as they announced that Biden had COVID, the flags went up in my head, and they were like, they're going to get rid of him. This is how they get rid of him. Adam Curry concurred with that thought. I was curious as to what you think. Are they going to use this to pull Dementia Joe from the field? Because he's fucked up everywhere he's gone. He's let the cat. They got to get the Easter Bunny to wrangle him. I mean, they're all. It's bad, Jason. It's bad. And
it's out of control. Like the Easter, I'm so glad you brought the Easter Bunny thing up.
He thinks it's Jill in the suit.
I think it's Jill in the bunny.
It's Jill in the suit.
Who knows whether it's Secret Service or it's Jill? I would think it's Secret Service. I mean, that's kind of the position.
We know it was somebody of significance.
Well, they always.
As he saw that bunny, he was like, "Oh shit, I got caught."
Well, let's go back to that for a second. Well, why was that? The bunny wasn't so much upset that Joe was talking. It's that Joe was talking off the cuff in front of people with cameras.
Yes.
Right. They had cameras, and God forbid he goes off script. He gets asked the wrong question, and it's a viral moment. Still became a viral moment because not because of what he said, but because of how absurd it was. In April, I believe that's when that happened. April, obviously, during Easter. I was in New York, and I was, again, talking to a separate buddy. Very much a guy that thinks that I'm totally insane. Doesn't think that any of my work is valid. Very down the line, mainline politics. His current girlfriend's a nurse. COVID is ravaging everybody. It doesn't matter. You know, the vaccine's great. It obviously works. Joe's got 4, and he still got it, you know. But I said to him, dude, look, you know, the guy doesn't run anything. And then I described the moment that the Easter Bunny had to wave him down, get in front of him, wave him down, let him know it was a big space, stop him, and then turn him around where the feeble old men didn't know even where to go walk. You look at the confused look on his face when the Easter Bunny turns him around, and it's like he might as well just fall on the ground and start convulsing. It's over, right? And I start telling him this. I go, dude, you know he doesn't run the country. And he just starts laughing. He goes, I haven't seen this video, but what you're describing to me is hilarious. It's a joke. It's a big joke. Why don't I think that they'll take him out with the COVID thing? I think it ultra hurts their narrative if it's even COVID related. And the president, who said you couldn't even contract COVID after starting to take these shots, right? Oh, protection every single way, blah, 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 dies after 4 shots from COVID 1984 on the umpteenth most benign strain out there that doesn't cause severe disease and death, and even the most sick people, because it's the flu at this point. Let's stop pretending that that the flu numbers are back up. They're not. Let me repeat that. They're not. Anybody can look up. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is right here today. Okay. Let's redo it since June up to June 3rd. Okay, here it is. These are by the numbers. This is where they absolutely admit that they lied to you when they told you that the flu disappeared from the hemisphere. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Where'd the flu go? Let's just show everybody that. Where they again told you that the 2019-2020 flu season hospitalized 400,000 people, and then the 2020-2021 hospitalized 161. Not 161. I'm sorry, 165. Not 165,000. Okay. Not 30%, 165, which is 0%. Okay, it's 0%. Because when they tell you 400,000 people were hospitalized, that's 400,000 and change. Okay? That's either rounded up or down. So that was a lie. They renamed the flu COVID, and then they also had COVID 1984. And now let's look at what the actual numbers are. And they tell you, again, like this is the craziest part. They tell you, right, that they recategorized it. You just need to read into it. So now in the new flu season, let's take a look. Flu hospitalizations still at max by June. Flu season's over, everybody. Are 150,000. That is still over 2/3 missing from what it should have been. Let me ask you, if you're still buying into this, do you have a severe mental illness? Have you been on SSRIs for a very long time? Can you not do basic math? It's right here. It tells you right here. Okay. They only hospitalized less than a third. It's nuts. And 76,000's low end, 150,000. They're still lying to you. So I don't think that they're going to destroy what's left of their COVID narrative. Obviously, they don't want it to go away. I displayed this. I updated my Google Pixel this week, and this is the first thing that popped up after the update. Hey, your Pixel just got more helpful. Save a copy of your COVID-19 card right here for quick access in the future. So Google and their operating system, the largest technopoly on the planet, is still promoting this bullshit. Okay, so if you think it's gone, it ain't. And if you think it's just COVID, it ain't. It's anything they want. Let me repeat that. Anything they want. So I think that they would much rather do away with Joey B via an Iranian assassination attempt or something a la Lee Zeldin. Did we all watch the Lee Zeldin video, that absurdity yesterday?
Yeah.
You know, I know Monroe, New York. I wouldn't even consider it upstate. It's not even really central.
No, it's not. I
Yeah.
know where Monroe is.
Yeah. I mean, it's in that lower region that's not quite the city, but you get into the Bronx pretty quick hour or so. And this guy walks up with a knuckle dragger little bunny thing. I don't know if you've seen it, but it hooks into your knuckles, two little spikes. He doesn't even take a real swing at him. He like goes, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know why he was up there, but why was that guy even allowed to get that close? I don't even like Lee Zeldin, right? I probably would have rather had Giuliani Jr., and I'm no fan of his father. Shit, I just had Zach Voorhees on my program, the Google whistleblower.
Yeah.
And we were talking about Giuliani, and I was talking about why I didn't like him. And there's not to like him.
Yeah.
So I think, especially in this day and age where we still have a Capitol that is lined up and fenced in, that we clearly have a militarized DC, that clearly Joe Biden runs nothing, that clearly if Kamala Harris were put into office, not only would she run nothing, but they'd want to keep her away from the cameras as much as Joe, because she can't talk either. It's a different flavor of can't talk. It's not like a dementia flavor. It's that I've been the other woman whore bag and haven't had to say anything a lot. Just a lot of dick and cackle.
Never had to use her mouth in this way before.
Never.
To impress anyone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that...
Why do we got to bring up Sweet Dick Willie?
Because we have to. Because again, there's a guy that's part of the establishment that helped put her career on a trajectory that now is the vice president. For those that don't know what he's talking about, right now, by the way, right now, and I got to do a video. This is my video today. Weaving spiders come not here. The Bohemian Grove is popping off, and Willie Brown was one of the lead members over there because he was the mayor of San Francisco. And this takes place in Sonoma, California. Above San Francisco, I've got Willie in pictures over at the Grove. Willie Brown was also important enough that he got a call on the morning of 9/11 not to get on any planes that day. Let me repeat that. Willie Brown got the call not to get on any planes on the morning of 9/11. And then around 2005-06, he finally got confronted on it. And he just said it didn't exist. That didn't happen. Oh, it happened, Willie. We know it happened. You gave the interview yourself. It wasn't speculation. You told the news you got the call that day. You didn't get on the plane that day. So when you're that guy's mistress, you get a high-level district attorney's position that launches your Senate career and then your woman of color gift card into the vice presidency when you couldn't pull 2 motherfucking % approval while you ran.
Let alone a delegate.
In your home state. Yeah.
Out of control. And this, again, is the reality we're supposed to live under.
Well, and you can't say anything about it either. And it's just fact. It's just fact. This is a dead-eyed, soulless servant to power who has done whatever required to elevate her status. That's not someone who is ever going to look out for you. It's just not. And
But glass ceilings. Glass ceilings.
Look,
it's important.
I want powerful, smart women in positions as long as they're doing the right thing for their people, their country, and humanity in general. Yeah. We don't get a whole lot of that. We don't get a whole lot of that. You know, I did a story on the supposed NASA whistleblower. I don't know if you guys saw this, you know, talking about Musk and the military industrial complex contracts and basically discussing how this was a man's world. And, you know, she had to fight tooth and nail to get up into that position. And I believe her, you know, she very much, especially when you're talking about an agency like that, when you're talking about a career that started in the 70s, into the 80s, into the 90s, to act like the military wasn't a male dominated and intelligence wasn't male dominated, you'd be ignorant. But then every once in a while, you see one of these people like her, or say the woman who worked for the Central Intelligence Agency that walked into George Herbert Walker Bush's office in the early 90s wearing a full skin mask, right? That woman who had another face and was briefing the president, trying to fool him into believing that she was somebody else, which she did successfully, by the way. Mm-hmm. That's a cutthroat bitch. Make no mistake about it. That is a cutthroat bitch. You know, she's in there with some of the most vile, sociopathic, military-driven men, and she made her way up there. Those are the type of people I actually want, right? You know, I want people that can get into that arena, but we need people that are going to take these people out in public, and we don't have a lot of those. Like you said, there's even with Kristi Noem, right? I remember it had to be 6 months to a year ago, but the Tuxter Do had her on, and they were talking about her inability to stop some of this trans athlete madness, right? And she was trying to get rid of it, and then all of a sudden she couldn't, and there was legislation, and she was trying to explain it. That's like the new battleground. I wish it wasn't. I wish I didn't have to worry about small children being groomed or told that they can have 47 different genders. But let me make it abundantly clear. I don't know that I have it queued up. Have we seen the Peace for Health and the Health for Peace UN campaign yet?
Yeah, I don't know if we played it on the show though, but I took a look at it. I was trying to figure out whether or not we wanted to throw it in the doc.
Well, I know that you guys are now aware that, for instance, let's see if we can find Mother Earth, that the United Nations has declared, due to new science, they cite no scientific studies.
Right.
To new science, there are now basically an infinite number of genders. Mm-hmm. Okay. And gender is fluid. And I knew that this was coming because this is their new logo. All right. And everybody's going to get a nice little look at it. I'm kind of in the way. If you noticed, Mother Earth now has a mustache.
Yeah.
Okay. Mustache. There's a mustache on Mother Earth, and it's Peace for Health and Health for Peace. And Joe Biden mentioned in his climate emergency speech that if this is a health issue. And you notice that on the shawl of Mother Earth now, we have an elephant representing, hey, wait a minute. Oh, we got to worry about the animals. Oh, it's the recycling sign. Oh, let's get Jason Bermas out of the way for a minute. Let's show everybody we have the windmills down here. Oh, and then we have the ambiguous. It's not quite a man and a woman and a child. There's no more long hair or anything like that. Just two people of different genders and a child. Everything is coming under the guise of the United Nations, the sustainability and green movement, transgender. It all comes together, and climate agenda. It's all come. And by the way, this picture doesn't have. It's like an animated thing that they do, and the graphics are a little bit different. But the dove of peace flies into Father Earth's hand. Okay, yeah. So the peace dove is part. It's health for peace and peace for health. You couldn't have written a more Orwellian slogan if you tried. Health for peace, peace for health. We've done such great things to bring peace to other countries that involves carpet bombing, biometric surveillance, overtaking their resources that also include water, arming their enemies. That's what we do for peace. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to see what they do for peace for health and health for peace. I mean, this shit is wild, and it's gotten zero traction. Meanwhile, today is the final day, and this is not getting enough news coverage.
Good.
We're renegotiating the supposed treaty that the fact checker said, oh, this treaty doesn't grant all these powers to the UN. We have the option to opt out. Anybody can opt out. Hey, dumb fuck. We're the one that introduced it.
Exactly.
Oh, we're going to opt out of the shit we introduced?
Yes.
What fucking planet are you living on? And no one brings that up with their bullshit fact checks. We introduced this shit. We don't opt out from the shit that we introduce. Period.
Yes.
That's not a thing. These fact checkers are full of shit. And again, shamefully, the mainstream media, even the ones that were covering this back in May, when people like yourself and myself were kicking and screaming about it, they covered it. No one's covering it right now.
Yeah.
No one's covering it. And one of the final things I covered on that was, hey, they're meeting again in July. Hey, they're going to try to push this through anyway. Hey, we're the ones that introduced it. Until we get the World Health Organization and the United Nations out of this country and us out of those organizations, we don't stand a chance. Another reason, one of the things I could get behind Trump on. He said, we're out of the WHO. I don't know. See, what he should have done is he should have actually declared a real emergency, a transnational emergency, a national security emergency, and said, you got a week to get your shit the fuck out of the country. We're taking over the UN building. We're going to turn it into a museum. We're going to put all your evil shit in there, and we're going to put people on tour. Yeah. Keeping it. And you don't get any money. Fuck you.
Let me just say that he was never serious about any of that shit anyways. He just, it was lip service, when he said those things about the WHO, even with the whole executive order he signed that Dr. Richard Bright and Janet Woodcock, or is it Janice Woodcock? I get it, Janet or Janice, whatever, changed his executive order when it came to hydroxychloroquine. Instead of getting it out to the people, this is coming from the Zelenko protocols, they changed it to only people inside the hospital, only gave the hydroxychloroquine to the people who had been affected for more than like 7 or 8 days, gave them a obscene amount, didn't mix it with the proper cocktails, and actually then said, okay, it's not working, and went to the remdesivir. And he did nothing. He went along with it.
Absolutely.
So he was never, ever serious about any of these things.
He went along with the shots, right? He locked the country down. I agree with you in full. He failed
Signed
on that.
CARES Act.
Anything else.
Yes.
The fact that you didn't have him just firing Fauci out of the gates, taking executive action. This is the guy that put it out there, made an executive order that you have the right to try medicine, even if it's not approved, pre-COVID 1984. And all of that went outside the window when people wanted what? A cheap, readily available drug like ivermectin No, banned. You go to jail. So yeah, no, he's a failure. There's no doubt about it. My point is this though. Until we find somebody that's dead ass serious, and can you imagine what the media would say if you actually had a leader in there that just went on TV and said, here's the executive action. They're a treasonous organization. They're out. We're out. We're going to work our way completely out of NATO. It's happening now. I mean, I can't imagine what the reaction of the media would be, except for an all-out bombardment of how, now our national security is no longer there. We're making enemies with the world. We're going to become the world's pariah. We might as well. Putin's got a hold of whoever's in office. All those, ridiculous things would be put out, but it would be beneficial to the United States, and it would be a step in the right direction. Still doesn't solve nearly close to any of our problems.
Well, that's the pitch for Dave Smith for president.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's before I want to remind everybody here that our elections have gotten worse. They haven't gotten better. So we're not going to get anybody's choice whatsoever. And, you have some people out there. I don't know if it was your former employer or if you still kind of work for him. You got people like Alex Jones saying that 2000 Mules was the greatest freaking documentary of all times. And it should win awards. And I've been screaming about how it's a sheep
giant blowjob to the surveillance
state. And already they're starting to arm up. Instead of talking about let's getting rid of these drop boxes that they don't have in any of these countries around the world that have free, fair, and transparent elections, they double down and they're starting to put cameras on them. And they're already starting to do that in Seattle. And you got assholes like DeSantis in Florida who are now amping up the security state to watch elections rather than fix the election.
I see a shift coming though, and Jason, before we wind down for the day, let me get your thoughts on this. I see a shift coming in the way that people deal with voting to where they are going to try to adopt the phone, the QR code, the facial scan, and that's going to be how you vote.
Oh, Jesus.
But what they're going to be able to do is monitor 100% of your activities, and if they determine that you have expressed anti-government sentiments, you're going to get a little text message, a little notification saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't get to participate in this year."
Yeah.
Some shit like that.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think it also gives the great excuse that all of a sudden, this is the safest way. We've got it all on record, and meanwhile, you don't have paper ballots and everything's digital. And once everything's digital, it is much easier to get the results you want, no matter what the results are. Just kind of going back to InfoWars and Alex Jones. I don't work for Alex. I get a text messages literally the day that they want me to host the show in the morning saying, "Hey, can I do this?" And I say yes every single time, obviously.
I would too.
The last time I was on there, I think I discussed the post-human world. The time before that, the McGregor rape scenario for an hour. I think the time before that, I trashed Elon Musk on the relative issues. I'm actually really excited to see Alex's War premiere in the next week. And I think it's great that Rokfin is going to be airing the Glenn Greenwald, Alex Lee Moore / Alex Jones interview tomorrow. I know that I'm going to be watching.
Yeah.
People out there with a Rokfin subscription, I would suggest you do the same. But look, I am right now in talks, and we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll have an announcement as soon as this week to be working for one of the biggest alternative, quote unquote, right-wing media outlets out there. We'll see what happens. Again, it's kind of up in the air, and I'm not going to make that announcement until it does. And I'll be 100% honest with everybody, because I'm an honest guy. There's no trash and Trump on this site. There's absolutely none of my work where I'm critical of Trump is probably going to make its way onto this platform because they're as all in as it gets. At the same time, this outlet was one of the very first that would not one of the very first to put some of the most damning stuff out about the Hunter Biden laptop. They've done a lot of good stuff, and I'm trying to work with just about anybody I can. You guys know that's why I'm speaking on the Reawaken America tour. It's not because I think Michael Lindell is a genius and that he's brilliant. I think that he brings in an audience, and they're going to allow me for 15 minutes to talk about the actual military industrial complex via what happened after World War II, Foreign Classified, the Manhattan Project, where we're at continuity government, all those things. And with this outlet, it would be that on a massive level, And there are problems with all these things. But what do? Do I just sit back and say, well, 500 people watched my video on Rokfin, there's go ahead.
Can you continue to do your show if you take the job?
Yeah, I'm going to continue to do my show.
So then you can just do like, Fiorella got that same kind of deal. Like, okay, but she's like, I can go do whatever I want on my own show. So that's just as good. Because I would listen, if OAS said, hey, Pasta, would you cover elections for us? I would do it. Like, as long as they, what I'm saying, they said, well, you can't talk bad about so-and-so. If I can cover just elections and then I can go back to my own network and say my own channel and start doing whatever I want to do, I would do it. So I think that's great. Sorry to interrupt.
I never give up my free voice. I just want to let everybody know that that's not something that I would ever do. And we're actually closer than ever to a building. I showed some of my audience that smaller building. It almost looks like a doctor's office without the equipment. Would be ideal for me to set up a small studio and get interns and do something like you guys are doing now. I don't know if I'd go 3 hours. I'd probably go 2 daily, 4 days a week, find a slot and do that. But I'm excited about this. I'm excited to reach more people because it still isn't about right and left to me. It never has been. It's always about right and wrong. And you got to reach people by finding a core issue that they can see the truth, or at least partially the truth, that you can persuade them that, hey, this is where this is really going. Go look at the history, and maybe you're not a card-carrying Republican anymore, or maybe you're not a card-carrying Democrat anymore, or maybe now you want to get involved in your city council or your state senate or your state's Congress. All those things are important, right? Because, a lot of people like to say, well, let's just vote them all out. Let's clean slate it. You don't think there's a bunch of social climbing, shit-faced vampires fucking frothing at the mouth on school boards and city councils that can't wait to take their place and get their endorsement deals and get their kickbacks so they can live in a fucking $1.2 million home? Of course there are. There is no shortage of those type of people. So what I need are more people like myself that'll say, you know what? I'll stay in my 3-bedroom rental, or I'm going to continue my mortgage on my homestead here. And I'm not going to quit my job, and I'm not going to become a professional politician. I don't think I could ever do that. I get people asking me to run for things all the time. And all I can think of is, am I strong enough to, not be corrupted? I hope so, but we're human, right?
We got somebody saying, brigaders, mount up. Jay, tell everybody where they can find you. By the way, when is that Alex Jones, Glenn Greenwald interview that's
tomorrow?
Airing? Okay, so guys, if you sign up for a subscription on AM WakeUp, you get all the premium content across the board. If you sign up for one for JB over there, Combo Couch, Slow News Day, you will definitely get this interview. Jason, tell everybody where they can find you, what you got coming up, and when that second or third interview with the New York Post is.
Well, who knows when that's going to happen, but you can check me out over on Rokfin. Listen, they took down yet another one of my videos yesterday. COVID-1984 with Whitney Webb. Gonzo.
YouTube took it down.
Yes, that's the third video this week that YouTube has taken down and not kicked me off the platform. As you guys know, I'm riding 2 strikes dirty. I'm constantly getting kicked off. Rokfin is where my uncensored stuff lives. However, the people at Rumble, as much as I don't like Peter Thiel and his, dirty Palantir boot on my neck, the people at Rumble contacted me as well. They talked to me behind the scenes. I've got a text number for one of them. They actually put my stuff on the front page when I go live.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty awesome.
How's it been with Rumble?
Here's the deal. I'm paying to be able to live stream, and you can get away with paying like the $10 a month. I pay the $25. Just so I have unlimited bandwidth. Not that I would necessarily need it, but also I can start up a multitude of channels under one brand. So let's say I wanted to do something other than the Info Warrior at all. I could also put that up there. If you look at my numbers, right, let's just hit these. If you look at my numbers, I've got about 5,000 subscribers. You'll see here 488 views, 593 views. My stuff's getting between 300 and about 1,500 views organically. However, when my stuff gets embedded, and they have an embed code where Rokfin does not, and I've been pushing for that embed code now for God knows how long. I brought it up again at the last meeting. It's a game changer. I'm not so sure they're very eager to put that embed code because I don't know that they can actually handle the traffic. Let me show you what an embed code does, guys.
Yeah, I have no clue what an embed code does.
Well, an embed code allows this video to get 40,000 views behind me. And an embed code allows the video below it to get 77,000 views. So whenever my stuff is embedded on a particular website by a particular author, here's 17,000 views.
Yeah.
We're talking about an extra 10 to 15,000 views minimum and up to almost 80,000 views maximum. You know what's funny about that? Let me tell you what's funny about that. YouTube has an embed code. Okay. So we did a little experiment and we put this video right here, which only has 503 views on Rumble. My videos on YouTube, anywhere from about 1,500 to about 10,000 on the high end, and I get maxed out, right? That video on YouTube only got 2.7 thousand views. Now you ask yourself, an embed code just has it right there. All you have to do is hit play. Are you telling me that 10 extra thousand people didn't hit the no privacy meta lawsuit button? Or is YouTube fucking with the numbers because they don't pay me anyway?
Yeah.
What's the deal? They need to be sued into the ground. I'm be honest.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
They need to be Alex Berenson style sued. Period.
Yeah.
And I've always been skeptical that my view count had been, messed with, et cetera, et cetera. But that's pretty solid proof that, again, a video that I had embedded in there, just so everybody can go see it, that same video we just looked at has 4,000 views.
Yeah.
It has 4,000 views. So no one touched it. YouTube, you're scum. Yeah. And you're probably
I think they should have to, Jay, be transparent on how they demonetize or who they demonetize, on how their algorithm works, on how they write it. They have to be completely transparent on what they do. This private company bullshit has to stop. They had signed into a deal pretty much that they will not be able to be sued as long as they act as a platform and not a publisher, meaning picking winners or losers. So, JB, thanks for coming on, brother. We do appreciate it, whatnot. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Bermas, thank you for joining in today. To everybody who helped us beat Jason Bermas for a second day in a row. He came in and helped us out. Maybe. Thank you for helping us out, JB. We love
you guys. I want to hug you. I want to kiss your heads.
We're here.
Jump in the car, dude. We got a room for you.
We do.
An airbed.
Guys, I'm playing Big Daddy a lot these days. That's why I forgot about this. He texted me or called me yesterday, and I totally forgot about it by the time I was getting the movie night ready. We watched Hotel Transylvania 2 on the big screen. We ate popcorn. And that's what it's really about, right?
I went and took my kids are here right now, and I went and took them to the Thor movie this week.
Which one?
The new Thor movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it's supposed to be campy. It's supposed to be like little innuendo-y, cheesy and stuff like that, and kind of almost trying to recapture the old Batman sort of camp. And they succeed on a couple of levels, but Natalie Portman is just fucking terrible. Just terrible.
She was good in The Professional.
Never seen her this bad in a film ever. It was like she phoned the entire freaking thing in. And so it takes away a lot from that character who's a central character in the flick. But if you can get past the propaganda and you don't mind Guns N' Roses, it's fun as fuck. It really is.
Okay. You know what? We're going to eventually do it. I don't know if the kid's going to do it. We did Minions, Rise of Gru, 70s period piece. I actually really loved it. A lot of those DreamWorks movies, as long as they're not trying to send a woke message or some kind of bizarre message, are still pretty solid. So again, that's what it's all about, right? It's all about navigating these things, living your own life, and smiling at the end of the day, right? But it's not easy to smile all the time. Sometimes you got to fucking dig in and get with reality and get out there, and you guys do that. So once again, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Heck yeah, bro.
He once told me it was all about chicken wings and beer. We love you, Jason Bermas. We really do.